If you've ever felt like you handle everything alone, like asking for help feels wrong, like showing emotion feels unsafe, like the easiest version of you is the one nobody needs anything from, this might explain exactly where that came from. There's a woman somewhere right now who hasn't cried in front of another person in years, not because nothing hurts, but because somewhere along the way, she learned that feelings were something you handle alone. She had loving parents, a safe home. Nothing dramatic happened, but something small happened, over and over again. And those small moments quietly built a wall so familiar, she doesn't even know it's there anymore. Today we're going to talk about what those moments are. 5 ordinary parenting habits that, with no bad intention whatsoever, teach children that their emotions are too much, that needing people is unsafe, and that the best version of themselves is the one that doesn't ask for anything. And the last habit on this list is the one almost no parent sees coming because it looks exactly like good parenting. So stay with me all the way through because that one might be the most important thing you hear today. But first, let's talk about something most parents have never been told about how their child's brain actually works. Because once you understand this, everything else on this list will make complete sense. In the first few years of life, your child's brain is forming over 1 million neural connections every single second. And the single biggest influence on how those connections form isn't school or toys or screen time. It's the pattern of interactions between you and your child. Researchers call it serve and return. Every time your child reaches out, a cry, a look, running to you upset, that is a serve. Every time you respond with warmth and presence, that is a return. Hundreds of serves and returns every single day are literally building your child's brain. But here is the part that changes everything. Their nervous system doesn't learn from single moments. It learns from patterns. One distracted day doesn't wire anything permanently. One hard week doesn't leave a mark. But months and years of reaching out for comfort and being met with dismissal, that teaches their nervous system something very clear. Reaching for people is unreliable. So stop reaching. And your child, being the brilliant, adaptive little human they are, does exactly that. They stop. They get quieter, easier, less emotionally demanding. And you, without realizing it, exhale. Because they seem fine. Because they seem mature. And because that behavior gets praised, she's so independent, he never makes a fuss, the pattern deepens until it becomes who they believe they are. That is how avoidant attachment begins. Not from dramatic events. Not from absent parents or broken homes. From small, ordinary, completely understandable moments, exactly like the ones we're about to walk through. So instead of theory, let's start with the first real moment this begins to form, because once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Habit number 1. Telling them their feeling is wrong. Picture this. Your child runs to you crying. Maybe they tripped. Maybe a toy broke. Maybe they don't even know why they're upset. They just are. And you, because you love them, do the most natural thing in the world. You try to make it stop. You're okay. That's not so bad. Big kids don't cry over this. Said with love. Every single time. But here is what each of those phrases quietly delivers to their nervous system. Your feeling is too much. It makes me uncomfortable. Make it stop. A child who hears this enough times starts to agree. They begin to talk themselves out of emotions before they even bring them to you. And eventually they stop bringing them to you at all, not because they don't feel, but because they've learned that you're not the place for those feelings anymore. What to do instead is simpler than you'd think. When they come to you upset, resist the urge to fix or minimize. Just say, "You're really upset right now. I'm right here." That's it. You don't need the perfect words. You don't need to solve anything. You just need to stay close, stay calm, and not be in a rush while they move through it. That response, repeated hundreds of times, teaches them something entirely different. When I show my feelings, the people I love come closer. That is the foundation everything else is built on. Habit number 2, pushing independence before the foundation is ready. Now here's one that gets praised constantly in our culture. And that's exactly why it's so easy to miss. You can handle this. You don't need help with that. Stop crying, you're fine. We celebrate early independence. We call it resilience. And so many parents with genuinely good hearts begin encouraging emotional self-sufficiency far too early. Here is what that actually looks like in real life. A 4-year-old falls and starts to cry. The parent says, "You're okay, you're a big kid," and turns back to what they were doing. The child looks at their parents' back for a moment. Then they wipe their own face. They go back to playing. And something small but important just happened. They just learned that composing themselves is what brings the parent back. They just practiced for the first time, shutting the feeling down to stay connected. Now multiply that moment by 1,000. Here is the truth about how self-regulation actually develops. It is not something children are born with. It builds slowly, after thousands of experiences of being calmed by a warm, steady caregiver first. Your calm presence during their storm isn't spoiling them. It's building the neurological foundation from which real, lasting independence will eventually grow. Think of it this way. You wouldn't throw a child into deep water and call it swimming lessons. But when we push emotional self-sufficiency before a child has built the internal foundation for it, that is essentially what we're doing. Real self-regulation grows from co-regulation first, not instead of it. So before praising them for not needing you, be the person they're allowed to need. Let them reach. Let your presence be what brings them back to calm. Then, in their own time, naturally, they'll begin to do it themselves. And that independence will be built on security, not on survival. Now we're getting into the habits that are harder to see. And this next one, I want you to sit with this one because it might be the most quietly damaging thing on this entire list. Habit number 3, moving toward them only after the storm has passed. Your child is crying. They're overwhelmed. The emotional intensity in the room feels like too much. And so, without even making a conscious decision, you stay a little distant. You give them space. You wait for things to settle. And once they calm down, once the tears stop and they seem okay again, then you move in with warmth and connection. That feels like the right call. It feels patient and calm. But here is what their nervous system is registering beneath the surface, in every single one of those moments. Connection comes after I shut my feelings off. The way back to closeness is through emotional suppression. And so they learn to do it. They don't stop needing you. They just learn to need you quietly. Disconnect from the feeling first. Compose themselves. Then come back to you looking okay. And it works every single time. They get your warmth. They get your closeness. The pattern is confirmed. But what they are rehearsing over and over in those hundreds of small moments is the exact habit that will quietly devastate their adult relationships. The inability to be vulnerable while the feeling is still alive. The reflex to handle everything privately before letting anyone in. The wall that goes up the moment emotions get intense. Here's what to do differently. Move toward them while they are still in it. Not after. During. Sit beside them while they're still crying. Hold them if they'll let you. Be steady and unhurried in the middle of the mess. Not once it's cleaned up. You are not rewarding the tears. You are teaching their nervous system the most important lesson of their emotional life. I do not have to be okay before I am worthy of comfort. The people who love me show up when I'm at my worst, not after. Habit number 4, being warmest when they're easiest. Here's a gentle but honest question. Think about when you are most present, most engaged, most warm with your child. Is that version of you equally available when they're struggling and emotional and asking a lot of you? Or does it show up most naturally when they're happy, playing on their own, and not needing much? If you're honest, and most parents are, when they really look, there's usually a small but consistent gap. A little more warmth when they're easy. A little less engagement when they're messy, demanding, or emotionally intense. Your child doesn't analyze this with their mind, but their nervous system feels it precisely in your eye contact, your tone, the energy in the room, and they adapt. They learn that the version of themselves that receives the fullest, warmest version of you is the contained, capable, low-maintenance version. So that is the version they present. The rest gets tucked away. And the parts that get tucked away don't disappear. They just go underground. And they resurface years later in relationships where someone is finally asking for all of them, and they don't know how to give it. The shift here is simple but powerful. Give extra warmth specifically in the moments they're most vulnerable. When they ask for help, light up. When they share something hard, lean in closer. When they come to you upset, let your face and your presence say, "This is exactly when I want you here." Say it out loud sometimes. "I'm so glad you came to me. Thank you for telling me how you're feeling." You are teaching them that all of them is welcome, not just the easy parts. And now habit number 5, the one that sounds like good parenting. The one most parents are doing with the best intentions. The one that quietly teaches emotional isolation without a single harsh word ever being spoken. You never let them see you struggle. You handle difficulty without visible emotion. You never admit when you're overwhelmed. You move through hard days without showing the seams. And you do this because somewhere along the way you learned that this is what strength looks like. Steady, composed, unshakable, but sit with what your child is absorbing while they watch you. This is what capable adults do. They don't ask for help. They don't show when things are hard. They carry it quietly and figure it out alone. And your child, who loves you and wants to be like you, begins to aspire to exactly that. Not because it's healthy, but because the most important adult in their life has modeled it as the standard. And they learn something even deeper. Being loved means being low maintenance. So become low maintenance. The fix isn't to burden them with adult problems. It is simply to let them see honest, appropriate human emotion in you. I had a really hard day and I'm feeling stressed. I'm going to call a friend and talk about it. That always helps me feel better. Your child just watched you reach for connection during difficulty. That one moment is worth more than 100 conversations about the importance of asking for help. This is really challenging me. I'm going to ask for some help figuring it out. Your child just learned that capable, admirable people ask for help. That needing others is not a weakness. It is exactly what human beings are designed for. Because here is the truth that ties every single habit on this list together. The child who watches you reach, honestly, without shame, without performing strength you don't have, is the child who will know how to reach when it matters most. In their friendships, in their relationships, in the quiet moments when life gets hard and they have to decide whether to open up or close off. That decision doesn't get made in adulthood. It gets made right now, in the ordinary moments of their childhood. In how you responded when they were small and needed you. In the pattern that repeated so many times it became the only truth their nervous system ever learned about love. Avoidant attachment doesn't begin with bad parents. It begins in the everyday moments that nobody ever stops to think about. The minimized feeling, the pushed independence, the comfort that waited for calm, the easy child who was quietly praised for not needing much, the parent who was always strong, too strong to show the seams. None of it was malicious. Almost all of it was love, imperfect, tired, well-meaning love. The same love every parent is doing their best with. But now you know what to look for. And knowing changes everything. You don't need to be a perfect parent. Your child's nervous system isn't looking for perfection. It's looking for a pattern it can trust. And the most important pattern you can give them is simply this. When I reach, you come. When I'm at my worst, you stay. When I show you all of me, you welcome all of me. Build that pattern. Repeat it in the small moments. Let it be the one that takes root. If this gave you something to sit with, share it with a parent who needs it. Leave a comment telling me which of these 5 habits you recognized in yourself, because we have all been there. And stay close, because this conversation is just getting started. Because your child won't remember most of what you said, but their nervous system will carry one thing with them for the rest of their life. The answer to a single question. What happened when I needed you most? Make sure they always know the answer.